I have finished my 4 inches here. We can measure it here. That's 0. Hold it there. And there's 4 inches. I might actually have an extra row, but that doesn't matter. I've got 1 stitch left to do. Well, actually 2. Okay. And now what we need to do is we need to take this bottom part, okay, that we cast on with, and attach it to the top part so that we have one nice headband. Now, there's several ways of doing this. I'll do it one of the most straightforward ways. Some people put all of the stitches on at once. I like to do them a few at a time. That way, if I have a mistake, I can undo it easily. Anyway, so what we need to do is undo our chain here. You saw I undid that. We're going to pull it back. We're going to reach in here and we're going to find a double-pointed needle. If you don't have a double-pointed needle, you can use a crochet hook, a skewer, anything that allows you to put the stitches on one side, okay, and pull them off. You're going to put them on this way, and you're going to pull them off this way. Let me show you how that's done. Okay, here we go. Oops, I put that back on before I get any farther. You can see here's my tail. The tail is counted as a stitch. Okay, here is my next stitch here. Okay, you can pull them on any way you want, whichever's easier for you, and just pick out a little bit at a time your stitches. There we go. Here we go. Okay, this one allows you to see just what you're doing. You find that you have live stitches on the other end. Actually, they're the leg from one stitch and the leg from the next stitch. You end up with one less stitch, okay, than you put on, because you don't pick up that extra half stitch. Okay, that's why I put this over it. Well, this will be our first stitch, the tail. Anyway, so we're going to continue on and pick up, oh, I don't know, 10 or 15. If I pick up 15, it'll take me about 5 goes with this. Just pull that out and pick those stitches up. It allows you to see what your stitches are. You can pick them up this way, but then sometimes you pick up the provisional cast-on yarn, and we don't want to do that. Makes it difficult to take it out. Okay. Now we're going to go back up here. We're going to pull our yarn up here. Now, we're not going to do the twisted stitch. We're going to drop the twisted stitch. So, our first is a knit stitch, and we're going to knit it regular through the front loop, not the back one. Okay? Then we're going to pick up this tail. Make sure you don't have your yarn tangled in it. Pick up the tail first. Okay? I'll get it situated in just a minute. We need our working yarn behind. We're going to go over our tail. That's a stitch. Okay? And then we're just simply going to come through and knit it. We didn't get our tail, did we? Let's pick up the first stitch. We'll get our tail at the end. It doesn't matter which way you get it. Okay, here's our first stitch. Now let's look at it. How did we pick it up? There's our front leg. We want to go through the front leg. We pull a stitch through. We pull another stitch through. Same stitch. Okay, now we have a purl. Pick up the front leg, pull a stitch through, pull the same stitch through the other one. I hope I'm explaining this right. Front loop, make sure we get the front loop. Depending on how we laid those on this needle, depends on which way they're going to be presented to us. Pull it through the back stitch and the front stitch. Okay, next one, pull it through the back stitch and then the front stitch. Oops, I stuck that one on crooked and I messed it up. There we go. We'll pull it through the back stitch, the front stitch. If you can do them both at the same time, that's okay. Let's look at it through the same way. Okay? But you need to know what you're doing. You're getting first, you're slipping your needle through the front stitch, okay? And then the back stitch, okay? And pulling them through either all at once or one at a time. It doesn't matter. And the stitch and the back stitch. And here we go. Goes rather quickly, but it is a little tedious. But you only have one row of these to do. And it really makes a beautiful hat band. Very serviceable too. It's quite warm over the ears. Back one, front one. I'll do a couple. Now we finish those. Let's pick up some more stitches. You might want to grab this loop when you're finished picking up stitches. Anyway, let's pick up some more. We've got about 1/4 of our hat band finished. You always want to make sure that the yarn that you use as a provisional cast on is very different from the yarn that you're going to be knitting with. I think I'm going to hook that loop from the provisional cast on so I don't lose it. And then I just continue. I've already gone through the front one. Let's get the back one. Oops. Now, right here I accidentally picked up that provisional cast on when I was originally knitting it. And since I can throw this yarn away, I'll just cut it loose. The last stitch we picked up was really not exactly a stitch, but we came around. We've got all of our stitches picked up. You can see how nice and neat that looks. We'll work the tail in later as we get this tightened up. Okay, now our pattern says work 2 rows, okay, of plain knit. And the question is, what one do I want to work with next? What color do I want? I was considering putting the purple in and then switching to the pink and then doing a pink and purple brioche and then switching back to another color, okay, and then doing purple on the other side and then picking up purple, but I haven't decided yet. So I think we'll just start with the purple and see how it looks. Now, I'm not going to cut this yarn because I haven't decided whether or not I'm going to continue with the green. I might continue with the green for that first little purl bump, that or ridge or whatever you want to call it. So right now I'm going to start with the purple, and we're just going to go round with the purple and leave our green alone. Now we're knitting, okay, just replacing, doing another knit row. 1, 2. And if I like the purple against the green, I'll leave it. And I think I kind of like that. Around we go. I think I will, I think I'm going to do green the next round. I mean, that little purl section that comes up. And get this waste yarn out of my way. Get my needle out of the way. Okay, so if we're going to use that, instead of cutting it and then retying and doing all of that, what if we're going to twist the yarns, okay, to carry it. And I just twisted them. This is a technique that you use when you're doing Fair Isle knitting to keep the floats, but it also helps you work it up to when you're going to pick up the yarn again. One more time around. Okay, we're back around, okay? And I think I will use the green on the next row. The only problem when you're working with multiple yarns and you're carrying them is they have a tendency to get twisted. So you just have to keep an eye on what you're doing. Okay, now we're going to pull that up tight. We're going to twist it with our purple yarn. And try to keep our purple yarn out of the way, because our row calls for six rows of purl, okay, and then 2 more rows of this, and we're going to use the purple again. We're going to use the purple all the way up, I think, and we're going to be carrying it. Okay, so we're going to do green, and this time we're going to purl the row. Now look at your work, okay, this is the front leg, that's the back leg. We're going to purl through the front leg. Now, on this row and this row only, will you find that that front leg is situated this way because that stitch was knitted the last time. You will also notice that you're going to get a funny little color piece here. But on this hat, that's not really going to show very much. So don't worry about it. And around we go. Okay, we finished that row, and what we're going to do is we're going to twist our yarn again. Twist our purple around our green, because we're going to carry it up and we're going to do 2 more rows. We're going to carry this ball of purple all the way to the top. Okay, so now I need another 5 rows. Sometimes keeping track of those rows is difficult. Sometimes I use a pencil and a paper and make a mark for every row I do. Okay, I don't really like to count them. You can count them, but right now I have a whole little wad of these little rubber bands, and so I'm going to pick one of them up. I could stick it on here and say I've done row number 1, but I think I'll just lay it down beside it. That's row number 1. Now, if you'll notice that your stitches are now oriented differently. Before, your stitches were sitting like that. Now, they're like that. So, like when we were doing our purl stitch down here, we're going to have to we're still coming from the back, but this is the forward leg, and that's the one we're going to go through. And we're going to do row number 2. Okay. I'll be back when I have finished all 6 of these.